Welcome to Sense of Style. I'm Stuart. The type of fragrances I'm talking about in the title are gentlemanly, sophisticated fragrances because that vibe is the hardest one to pull off. You wear these fragrances, it'll definitely move you in a sophisticated direction, but unless you have the bearing, unless you're dressed the right way, it is a very difficult vibe to get. There are things like masculine fragrances and fresh and seductive fragrances. Fragrance can really move you in that direction, but sophisticated is tough. And when it comes to my core audience of 6,000 or 7,000 regular viewers, that's what you guys are. That's what you've told me you are. I learned that the hard way last week when I did a video on power moves. Boy, did that not do well. I got about a third the views I normally do. I veered too far away from what you like. After a while, the channel doesn't become mine anymore. It becomes ours. And I mean, I could have my own channel, but it'd have a lot fewer viewers. You guys like this kind of stuff. So yeah, it won't be any more power moves videos anytime soon. Let's get to it. Fragrance number one is Dior Homme Intense. Yes, we're getting right to it right away. This is the ultimate sophisticated scent. Not everybody loves iris. There are a lot of people that are sophisticated but don't like iris, but generally this is thought to be the ultimate in terms of fragrance sophistication. And quite frankly, I'm not sure if a fragrance like this would still be around, or we would ever have gotten things like Givenchy Gentleman EDP or Valentino Uomo Intense, or a lot of other iris fragrances, were it not for the fragrance community for men that are interested in men's aesthetics, because this is not the kind of scent that the average person picks up right away when they're buying fragrances. This is like my 30th or 40th fragrance that I purchased. Most people don't know anything about it, but the fragrance community consistently buys it and consistently buys iris. And so even though, yeah, not mass sales, but very consistent sales, because people that care about this stuff, people that care about fragrances, love it. The weird thing about this fragrance is that irisy ambrette combination with a little bit of lavender and cedar, that vibe has been around for a really long time. The iris scent started in the 1550s. Catherine de' Medici, she was Italian, but she was essentially the regent of France for 12 years. And apparently in the French courts, things didn't smell all that good. So what the people did in the 1550s under her reign was dig up iris flowers, use the root, orris essentially, crush it up, mix it with rice powder, and it created a beautiful powdery iris scent. They would put it on their wigs, their faces, and their clothes. So yeah, that vibe, 475 years people have been smelling at least something like this fragrance. Fragrance number two is Eau de Rhubarbe Ecarlate from the House of Hermes. And when it comes to the House of Hermes, it's even more exclusive in a lot of ways than even something like Dior Homme Intense, because the average person like me, and I didn't love Dior Homme Intense right away, but it didn't take me long. Whereas the House of Hermes, I didn't want to have anything to do with it for a full 3 years. I didn't understand what they were doing. Everything was minimalist. Everything was vegetal, including this. This is a rhubarb-based scent. Not the first thing you think of when you think of, wearing something that smells like it. It's for people that have been in fragrance for a long time and understand the value of minimalism. So it's definitely outside the box. So rhubarb is fruity. So it's quite fruity, but it also has a green facet from the lantana. That's a floral green note. And then there's musk in the base. This was Christine Nagel, the current head of perfumery at Hermes. This was her first fragrance because she came from Firmenich, which is a flavoring and scent company. And so she was familiar with the aroma chemical of rhubarb, because you can't get rhubarb oil. There's no such thing. So aroma chemical familiarity led her into this. And the great thing that I like about Hermes, and she says this repeatedly, she got there first in 2014, and she said they have never done market research or focus groups when it comes to fragrances, because even though it's a massive house, it's essentially an art house. The people involved in making this was Nagel, the head of perfumery, and the art director for Hermes. That was it. It's artistic reasons that they make fragrances. So if you don't like corporatism, Hermes is definitely something that you might want to look into. Someone please tell me what was going on at Tom Ford in the late 2010s, because they released 3 lavender-based fragrances, all in the private line, all within 2 years of one another. Lavender Extreme, Fougère d'Argent, and this, Tom Ford's Beau de Jour, all came out in 2 years. They realized their mistake. They moved this within 6 months to the signature line, functionally cutting its price in half, which is great for me because I absolutely love it. It's my favorite barbershop scent. And actually, I don't know whether this was just marketing, but at the time, Tom Ford started to use this as his signature scent when they moved it to the signature line. And so, yeah, I mean, Tom Ford wore this for quite some time. So even though this is a barbershop, there's 2 lavender notes at the top, and so it's a heavy lavender-based barbershop, so it comes off as fresher, not quite as sweet. You normally get coumarin when the barbershop scent. There's a little bit of amber here, but the lavender does most of the work. You're obviously going to get oak moss as well. You need that for barbershop for other aromatic notes. And the funny thing about Beau de Jour is, I'm not kidding, every single time over the last year and a half that I've talked about this, someone will say in the comments, it smells just like Zeno from Davidoff. And I always go, well, yeah, it kind of does, because I tried it once and I had a familiarity with it, but I got a chance to get to try it a lot, wear it a lot. And there's definitely something different about Zeno in the open. There's an animalic funk that, I don't know if it's animalic, but it comes from a combination, I think, of clary sage and the rosewood. So it's a lot woodier than this, but you really notice it in the beginning. So the beginning, it doesn't last long. It's a couple minutes, but it's definitely a little bit different than the dry down. Very, very similar. And I do like the price of Zeno, but the performance here is better. And you don't get that funk. Fragrance number 4 is Starman Nebula from Fragrance World. It is a very faithful clone of Thierry Mugler's Pure Malt. And this and Pure Malt, I wouldn't say are classic sophisticated. It leans more on the sophisticated manly side because there are boozy, earthy elements that this fragrance has. There's like patchouli and a peat note that give it an earthy feel. There's whiskey. There's also malt that give it a little bit of a boozy feel. And so, yeah, I think it's sophisticated to a certain degree, but yeah, pulls you in a different direction slightly. Thierry Mugler, man, he was a quirky dude. What he used to do with this was he had the actual fragrance in large quantities and put it all in oak barrels for 6 weeks, just like they would do with beer or booze, right? They actually went in oak barrels. And so the vanillin, the lactones, and the tannins all leached into the actual fragrance to give it a real feeling of authenticity. And so, that's obviously for the pure malt, not for this, but still, this does faithfully capture that vibe. Fragrance number 5 is Givenchy Gentleman Only, and this is a fragrance that I traded for, and the trading situation, I think, summed up perfectly the difference between someone who's looking for sophistication and somebody who's looking for more fun type fragrances. But I met a young guy, early 20s, really good kid, really liked him, but he hated this. And I was giving away Invictus Intense or trading it, and I hated that. And I didn't know what this smelled like before, or even when he said he hated it. But on the way home, I came to a huge surprise realizing how good it was, and realized that for somebody of his age, early 20s, this kind of woody, clean fragrance is really, that's not his vibe. That's not what he's going for, whereas it worked perfectly for me. And when I say woody, there's a lot of vetiver, a lot of birch, there's some incense, but it also has a spicy component, and it has mandarin as well. So it's got pink pepper and mandarin, and it just comes together wonderfully. This is definitely one of the most underrated scents. I've seen that twice in an underrated list on a gent scents, but the reason you don't hear more about this, bad timing. This came out in 2013. That was really bad timing for this type of fragrance because everything at the time was really sweet. They just released Arrow's book the year before in 2012. Then you also had like 1 Million Flankers were still really popular. Sweet fragrances were in. Blue, clean, fresh fragrances. This isn't blue, but it's fresh. Fragrances like that didn't really take off until 2015 when you released Sauvage. Then you got Dylan Blue. Then you got YSLY EDP. That's when this would have been much better timing for a fragrance like this. And you'd have heard a lot more about it, I think. So yeah, timing's important. This is Bvlgari pour Homme. This is another woody scent, a little bit more old-fashioned, but not in a bad way. It came out in '96, a year after Silver Mountain Water, so you're going to get that tea musk combination. that I really like. It's quite soothing. But fundamentally, though, this is very woody, just like Givenchy Gentleman Only. The woods here, though, come off as a little sharper. Right, there's a lot more cedar in here. So there's 4 woody notes. Cedar plays the main role. Definitely clean, definitely gentlemanly. The thing about it, though, is this has been around for a really long time. They discontinued it a couple of years ago. It's still available, but now the price has gone up again quite a bit. It's now about in the $100 range at the discounters. It used to be half of that. So this is one of those scents that very gentlemanly, but if you're interested or if you've tried it and you'd like it, now would be the time, I think, to pick it up. Fragrance number 7 is Montblanc Starwalker. And sorry for all the text, but this was a tester. But Starwalker, I think, is the purest citrus woody fragrance on the market, even more so than something like Lacoste White. Because, I mean, that's all there is here. It's just citrus and woods. They try to market by saying, oh yeah, it's got bamboo. What is bamboo? It's essentially like wood, right? So you get the bamboo note, you get sandalwood, you get cedar. Cedar comes across quite nicely here. And then you get mandarin and bergamot, 2 standard citrus notes, and that's really all you get. And you get solid 4-hour performance. I haven't had any problems with the performance. And so, yeah, it's very, very simple. It's $30. And the great thing about citrus woody is it's clean, sophisticated, and masculine. Now, sophisticated in a not try too hard kind of way, but citrus woodies, to me, have always been sophisticated. Finally, we have Paco Rabanne Pour Homme. This is a 1973 fragrance. This is a barbershop, but a little bit rough around the edges. Now, I'm not sure, quite frankly, because I've not tried the original, whether it's rough around the edges on purpose and that the original was like that, or whether it became rough around the edges when they reformulated it, because it's been around a long time. But despite the reformulation, I still get at least 5 hours with it. It lasts long. I get a lot of projection, 45 minutes to an hour. So yeah, the performance isn't bad. It does feel a little bit thin. I still think it's worth a purchase, though, if you like barbershop, you like old-fashioned, classy style fragrances. So you're going to get the obvious things. You're going to get lavender and oak moss. But as I said, a little bit rougher than what you normally get. So yeah, there won't be too many deviations, too much anyway, from what I normally deliver on the channel, which is, and bear in mind, it doesn't always lean mature. I've got about 2,000 or 3,000 viewers, at least 2,500 that are under the age of 40. So it's not just a mature channel. It leans mature, but it definitely leans, classy and sophisticated. And I don't know how you guys found me, but that if I veer away from that, I get killed. That was not a fun week last week. Anyway, thanks for watching.